Welcome to the Meetings Podcast, the meeting organizer's podcast source for what's new in the meetings and events industry. Meetings Podcast is a conversation with a variety of voices that looks at events, meetings, and media. Meetings Podcast is sponsored by IMEX America, America's worldwide exhibition for incentive travel, meetings, and events.
Hey, podcast listeners, this is Mike. Today's show is brought to you, of course, by IMEX America, but also I'd like to thank AV for Planners. Full disclosure, I'm an investor and founder in AV for Planners. Most of you know that listen to the podcast. But here's how it works. AV for Planners takes your upcoming meeting or conference, 3 AV bids or proposals, and gives you an easy-to-read, one-page evaluation you need to negotiate and to make sure you have the correct pricing and equipment and labor for your conference audiovisual. And so behind that one-page evaluation is the supporting, easy-to-read material for your reference. If you're still unhappy with the evaluation results AV for Planners brought to you, we can also bring in a 4th AV company and try and get you a better price. So check out avforplanners.com for more information to get the best pricing for audiovisual and the confidence you're getting the right equipment and labor for any size meeting or event. So let's get into today's show, and I'll talk to you after the show and fill in any gaps. Welcome back to the Meetings Podcast. This is Mike McAllen from Grass Shack Events and Media, and on today's show we have Stefanie Chow. Hi, Stefanie.
Hello.
Thank you very much for talking with me today.
Yes, of course. Glad to.
And let me read a quick short bio. Stefanie is a double agent in the events field. She is an event consultant for BidPal, where she helps clients adopt best practices on using BidPal software to fundraise more money. She also produces the Growth Marketing Conference for Startup Socials, where entrepreneurs and marketers learn tactics to grow their companies. In her spare time, Stefanie enjoys being involved with Toastmasters, Meeting Professionals International, and Freedom House. So that's awesome. Awesome. Stefanie, that's great you're in Toastmasters.
Are you in Toastmasters too?
I've gone a couple of times, and I'm terrible at speaking, and I need to go. And it's one of my things every year, go to Toastmasters. So I am very impressed that you go.
Hope to see you soon at one of the meetings.
Yeah, how long have you been doing that?
About 2.5 years now. It's a huge comfort thing, not as much of the craft of being perfect at speaking. A lot of it is just the fear of getting up in front of people.
Yeah, and then when I was looking up some of the things you do, you don't seem to have that fear. I mean, you do comedy, which terrifies me. How to get up and
good at hiding it. I can hide it well.
Yeah, but that is seems to be the most terrifying thing to me, just because not alone just talking in front of people, trying to make them laugh. And you're very funny.
Well, thank you.
And you're part of MPI, so you're do you go in the city? I assume you're in San Francisco.
Yes, in San Francisco.
Very cool. I just went to the thing they had in the city recently.
Yeah, I think that's where we met.
That's right. We did meet there. That's right. You got a chocolate?
Yes, I did get a chocolate. It was very cool chocolate. All gold wrapped and pretty.
Yes, for the IMEX. It was awesome. Do you, what's Freedom House?
Freedom House they have 2 safe houses for human trafficking survivors. So I volunteer there as a shelter volunteer and also do some advocate events speaking out against human trafficking.
Very cool. Okay, so let's jump into where you're at and your career path and what led us to you and actually who you are. So how'd you get into the meeting event business?
It wasn't intentional. I grew up wanting to be a dentist. And my dad was a dentist. My uncle's a dentist. He didn't push me to be a dentist, but I thought, being a dentist is cool. I want to be like Dad. And then in high school, I got involved with a lot of student organizations, organizing fundraisers and community service projects. And then when I went to college, I continued to do this. And my first few jobs were as an events assistant. And I love these, but in my mind, it was always a side thing. I was part of Pre-Dental Society, still going to be a dentist, volunteered in dental clinics, and then I realized, because I was going to college in San Diego, this is an actual industry. I can actually do events for a living. Nice. So when I realized that, I started pursuing various niches within that events industry.
Very cool. And are you a CMP?
I am not yet a CMP.
I am not either. But I've thought about doing that. And so when you're is that why you're involved with MPI? Or just to be around the people?
Yeah, it was just to be around the people. Throughout college at UC San Diego, where I went to school, there weren't a lot of people who were focused in that industry. A lot of people were in healthcare and business. I felt very, alone at times in that industry. So joining MPI was really about having that community and volunteering and getting to know other people who were doing the same things I was doing.
Very cool. And at college, did you end up taking courses in events, or what did you end up doing in college?
I ended up majoring in economics.
Uh-huh.
So that was fun. And we didn't have any business classes or events-related classes at UC San Diego, but after I graduated, San Diego State University has this great certificate in meetings and events. So I took courses in that. I met a lot of the great professors who I ended up being on the board with at MPI, and that kind of tied itself together perfectly.
Oh, very cool. So you were on the board down there.
Yes, and I'm still on the board down there, even though I'm up here in San Francisco.
How fun! That's great. And so these other conferences that you got involved with when you came up here, is that when you got up to San Francisco? Is that how you got involved with BidPal and the Growth Marketing Conference?
It was interesting how I got involved in those. With Startup Socials, I've been doing that for about 2.5 years. I was looking for a job right out of college, and a friend from Berkeley was on a job website and then forwarded this to me, this opportunity, and I thought, wow, this is going to be my chance to move back up to NorCal, be near my family who's in Sacramento. But they wanted me to work remotely and then do the events in San Diego, so I ended up staying there. For BidPal, it was through someone that I met in MPI, actually. She was working for BidPal and was posting cool pictures of BidPal events on her Facebook, and I thought, oh, I wonder what this is. So I asked her about it and then started getting involved that way. It was really all about networking.
Very cool. So what's been the biggest challenge for you taking this path into the event space?
I think it would be, like I mentioned, in college, not having a lot of other people who were pursuing the same career path that I was. There were no, event class study parties or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of me trying to carve out my own path and figure out what my own future would look like, which was kind of cool in that sense, but it was challenging at times.
When did you know you made the right decision on this? Was there like an aha moment where like, oh, I love this?
Yes. It's funny. I thought that I totally had this events thing down, was working as a catering coordinator at the faculty club on campus, and loved just being in the events field. But after I had left that job, I tried to start my own business, not an events business, but more of a business in coaching and public speaking under the guidance of a mentor. So the brand of my business was a millennial engagement specialist. So I studied a lot of generational differences between millennials, since I suppose I would be classified as a millennial, and non-millennials. This lasted for about a year, and it didn't really go anywhere, because in the end I realized I wasn't passionate about it. And it was hard to rebrand myself after I had done so many events and all my friends knew me as the event planner. But I mean, from that, I kept all the lessons I learned about starting and running a business, and that helped me get back into doing events, which has always stuck with me throughout this business venture. That was really my true passion. So I knew that I made the right choice to stick with events.
So you're an event consultant with BidPal, BidPad, sorry, and what's that like? BidPal, sorry, I said BidPad. I apologize. What is that? What does that entail?
BidPal is a fundraising. They have fundraising software. They do mobile bidding. So if you've ever been to a gala or a fundraiser where there's silent auctions, there's a donation appeal, there's a room full of people who are gathering around a cause and wanting to support raising money for something, whether it's a school, whether it's a nonprofit. And the BidPal software allows guests to participate in these these functions on their phone. So they can bid on silent auction items, they can donate money, and it really just creates a seamless experience for both the organizer and the guest. So as a consultant, I work with these clients to tell them best practices for how to run their event more smoothly. So how would you do your registration? What's the best way to conduct your donation appeal? How do you make sure that your silent auction goes well and guests can get the items that they've won? Things like
cool. That. Do you travel for this?
I don't travel for this. For the consultant part of it, I work from my home office, but I also manage events for BidPal. So some events that use the BidPal software, I have so far just traveled within the Bay Area, but I'm hoping to travel perhaps outside of state in the future.
Sure. And has BidPal been around a while, or are they new?
I think BidPal has been around. I don't want to misquote since this is going on your podcast. I think they've been around for 5 years or so.
Cool.
They're based in Indianapolis.
Oh, very cool. And so does that give you time to, do you also to produce the growth marketing conference? Do you still do that, or is that something that you've moved on from?
Yes, I still do that, and sometimes I feel like maybe I've overcommitted, but it's really interesting also getting the perspective from the startup side of things, especially being in Silicon Valley. I've been with Startup Socials for 2.5 years and have seen it grow so much and change and go in new directions. It started in 2011, and we started off by doing mixers and informal networking events so that entrepreneurs could get to know each other more in a relaxed space. And then we grew to doing education events, workshops, and now these conferences. So I love producing conferences. I think there's a lot of elements to that, and it really keeps those ideas fresh in my mind. Very
cool. So can you tell us basically, can you run us through a day of what it's like working at BidPal for you?
Mm-hmm. So for BidPal, or just, I guess my typical day in general, I wake up, and what I've been trying to do more recently is to practice mindfulness. We actually have one of our great speakers with Startup Socials, Aaron Kahlo. He does a lot of mindfulness workshops, and I really try to practice this in the mornings just to keep the emails out of my head. So just not to think about all the things that I need to do. After I do all my morning routines and had my mental space to myself, I'll make a list of the top 3 things that I want to accomplish that day, whether it's making sure I get more calls with my clients scheduled and checking in with them, whether it's looking at the data and their software to make sure they're all good to go for their event, whether I need to reach out to the speakers for the growth marketing conference and see if they need any help with their travel or their sessions. So I'll prioritize that and then start going through the rest of my day.
Right. And that's kind of one of the questions I wanted to ask you is kind of when what you say mindfulness, but taking you through a typical day. Do you have morning rituals? Food, exercise, regular stuff you read on the web? Do you have anything like that? Can you take us through it? How about you personally? Do you have a morning ritual? You mentioned that, and that was going to be one of my questions. So I was like, let's knock it out right now. So, do you have rituals that you have?
Rituals?
Or food or exercise or regular reading, social media sites, news sites. It's neat to kind of find out what other people, where they go.
Yeah, I will tell you right off the bat that I am very guilty of trying to jump into my email and list of things to do before I have a chance to have my own space. So a lot of the things that I have inserted into my morning ritual are because I know I need to keep my work out and have a morning ritual in general. So in the morning, what I've been trying to do recently is to I have my yoga mat set up in my home office. So first thing in the morning is brush my teeth, make coffee, do some yoga stretches. Nice. I also recently bought a stationary bike because then I have no excuse to do exercise. So I'll try to get some stretching and cardio, and then I just need to feel physically well before I start, stressing myself out with all the things I need to do. So it's really just grounding myself and then working.
Do you work anywhere else besides home? I mean, I have a home office also, which I've had for a long time now. And do you get out? Do you make yourself get out, or do you stay in all day?
I try to have days where I do all of my phone calls on certain days, and then on other days I can work from a coffee shop. The difficulty of working from a coffee shop is just needing to be on the phone, and it's not an optimal environment to talk, because I feel like I'm bothering other people. But Startup Socials also has works out of a co-working space in San Francisco, so sometimes I go there. Usually when I get out, it's in the evenings when I'm going to a Toastmasters meeting or an MPI event or going out with friends. I know that at least once a day I need to make it out of the house and get some human interaction in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that a lot of people have that nowadays. I have a meetup we do in the city called it's the event. We have an event planner one, but it's also the event marketing rock stars. And we went the other night and had the event, and it's just it's a meetup. So we have like a speaker, and then we hang out and chat. And we went out. I went out to eat with a couple of. You'll have to come to the next one. I'll send. We went out. There was 3 other guys there afterwards. It was kind of winding down, and I said, hey, let's go get something to eat. So we went and we all sat there, and I didn't really know these guys, and then everybody said they all worked at home. We all worked on their own. And that's why they went to the meetup, because they're trying to get out. But it's an interest. I think there's so many people nowadays that work out of their houses.
Yeah, you get very interesting reactions when you say you work from home. A lot of people who don't work from home will say, wow, that must be so cool. That must be the best thing ever. You get to control your own schedule. Yes, but there's a lot of self-discipline involved, and a lot of other things that you wouldn't think about until...
Or you work too much is my problem, because I never leave. You don't really leave. I'm home, so I am in my basement. I have a basement that I work out of, and I just kind of stay down here, and then I'll hear my wife come home, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I guess I go upstairs now, but sometimes she comes home at like 7:30 or something. I'm just down here hammering away at stuff. So interesting stuff. So are you struggling with anything right now with your personal or professional life? I mean, obviously it doesn't have to be that personal, but are you struggling with anything?
Podcast, Mike. In terms of professional difficulties, I would say I have trouble branding myself sometimes. I mean, I talked about Startup Socials, I talked about BidPal. When I go to networking events, I try not to make it a long script after someone asks me, what do you do? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to go into all of these details. So trying to find a way to succinctly say who I am has been a challenge. I went to the MPI WEC a few months ago, and someone told me there that I should just say, I'm a meeting and events professional. That usually works if you're not at a meeting and events event. Otherwise, it's like, okay, well, me too.
Yeah. Well, I have that problem myself. I mean, just never know what to call myself. I mean, like a business owner, I guess. But
yeah, what do you call yourself?
Yeah, I say I'm a meeting producer, basically, but that's, I do all sorts of things, just like you do. So it is hard. But then that's what conversations are good about. And I think the United States is like the only place where you really ask somebody what they do, right away. Go to other countries, since no one really asks you what you do.
Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of networking events, there's one that I really like going to in the city. It's called the Art of Active Networking. Have you ever been to that one?
No.
I like that one. This really awesome guy, Mark Sackett, puts on these events throughout the country. They're based in San Francisco, and the whole premise of the Art of Active Networking is to be there, and instead of asking other people, well, what do you do? And usually when that happens, if it's not relevant to you, you just dismiss them already mentally, don't want to listen to them anymore. And instead at this event, it's all about how can I help you, or what are you looking to get out of this event? And it really opens up the conversation more to how people can help each other rather than asking for something from them.
That's great advice. Yeah, really great. So do you listen to music when you work?
I do listen to music sometimes if I'm on autopilot.
What kind of stations do you listen to?
I like a few very different ones. I love country music. I'm actually going to Stagecoach at the end of April, so I'm super stoked for that. I think I was just talking to you a little bit earlier about going to a country bar in Oakland that I really like, and I'll listen to country a lot. If I'm working out or I'm trying to concentrate, I'll listen to EDM, electronic dance music. That is can be very intense. And I also like show tunes. Love Broadway musicals, and sometimes I'll just take a break to sing a few show tunes or something.
That's great.
My neighbors probably think I'm crazy.
No, that's great. That's great. My sister was an actress. I grew up with someone singing show tunes nonstop, which is probably why I don't listen to it now. But anyway, do you have a favorite documentary or movie that you've seen lately, or at all? I mean, that you really love?
Let's see. So in terms of favorite movie, I really like Good Will Hunting. And I don't think I can do it justice by explaining why I like it so much. But Robin Williams is great, and the storyline is great. Just everything about the movie is very inspiring.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, I like that one. I just watched Die Hard the other day for the first time. And I heard...
Did you like it?
I loved it. I can't believe it's taking me this long to watch it, and now I want to watch the other ones, but I heard I should skip number 5.
Interesting. Yeah. No, I don't know. I haven't seen it in years, but I like Bruce Willis. He's a fantastic actor.
Mm-hmm. I like Alan Rickman, too.
Yeah.
Alan Rickman.
Didn't he just die, too?
Yeah, he did.
Sad. Okay, so what's the best advice you ever received?
Best advice I have ever received. I don't remember anyone who's actually given me this advice, but I'm sure it has been given to me somewhere along the way. Maybe by my dad unintentionally, which is to get involved. I think if you wait for things and opportunities to come to you, you're going to live a very difficult life. So getting involved has always helped me to be successful. Whether in Toastmasters, whether in MPI, whether it's volunteering, you really open up the doors to meet different kinds of people and never know what opportunities those will bring.
Perfect. And I usually open up every one of these interviews with the question of, do you have a favorite quote? Do you have a favorite quote?
I do have a favorite quote, and this was one of those quotes that I would always put at the bottom of my email signatures until I got annoyed, so I took it off, but still my favorite quote. It's by Randy Pausch, the Carnegie Mellon professor who gave the speech the last lecture.
Yeah.
This particular quote I really liked. The brick walls are not there to keep us out. The brick walls are there to give us a chance to show how badly we want something. The brick walls are there to stop the people who don't want it badly enough. And I think that's so true.
Wow, that's great. And that's a fantastic... the last lecture is really great to watch too, huh?
It is.
Is there something working for you right now? A new app, vitamin exercise program. We already said you have your yoga mat in your exercise bike that you're using diligently, or like a work hack, a time saver. Do you have something that you want to share?
Yes, love my yoga mat and my new stationary bike. I mentioned briefly earlier that I'll write down 3 things that I want to accomplish every day. So I neurotically printed out these quarter sheets of green paper that have 1, 2, 3, and then I have my bonus things 4 and 5 that I have at my workstation. So every day I'll fill one of these out just to remind myself, you can't do 10 things a day. You just got to focus on what's really important today and then move on to the next day. So that really helps me to keep focused.
Very cool. Is there a favorite industry event that you like to attend?
Industry event, I mentioned Art of Active Networking. I really like MPI events in general. I can't think of one in particular that I like, but I love the MPI community and just going to those events. I'm actually doing, I mentioned I'm on the board for the San Diego chapter, and we're doing our annual event in April. So I guess self-promotion, that's a favorite industry event.
So you fly back and forth for the stuff for the San Diego one? How are you doing that?
I wish I could. I do it remotely. I have a great team down there in Orange County and San Diego who are on the ground working on this event.
Because John, do you know John Trask?
I do know John Trask. I think he's spoken at our events before.
Yeah, he works with me. He's the guy who I started the podcast with, the AV guy.
Oh, very cool. Small world.
Isn't that funny? Yes.
Yeah.
He loves MPI.
Yeah, actually, I think we're looking for an AV speaker, so John.
Yeah, you should get him to do it. He'd love to do it. Okay, so if you could talk to the high school senior you, what would you tell yourself?
I would, it's funny, my friend just posted a Facebook status because he said, I'm giving a talk to high school students. What's the biggest piece of advice that you have? And everyone was commenting, so everyone's flashing back to their high school days. And what I said was that I would advise high school students to, especially me, to spend time with the people who drive you to be better and really motivate you to be a better version of yourself. And don't waste time spending it with people who make you feel like crap.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. Great stuff. All right. So thank you so much for speaking with me, Stefanie. Where can people get a hold of you?
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, if you're really adventurous, YouTube. Some of my stand-up stuff is on there. I don't know how good it is, but it's good. There, as well as LinkedIn.
Very cool. And it's Stefanie, Stefanie Chow.
Yes.
Yes. So for searching for you. All right. So thank you again, and good luck with everything. And I'm sure I'll see you very soon. Actually.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Okay. Bye. Okay, thank you very much, Stefanie. Thank you for listening. Thank you again to our sponsors, IMEX America and avforplanners.com. If you have any questions or comments, please email me at meetingspodcast@gmail.com. And if you have a quick moment, you can click over to the iTunes store and give the Meetings Podcast show a rating. It really helps us out. So thank you so much. Thanks for listening. Make sure to contact me. Love to hear from you. And I will see you next time.
We appreciate and thank you for listening to the Meetings Podcast. Please email with any questions or comments to meetingspodcast@gmail.com. Meetings Podcast is sponsored by IMEX America, America's worldwide exhibition for incentive travel, meetings, and events. The Meetings Podcast theme music is brought to you by the Delgado Brothers, which can be found at delgadobrothers.com.